Bill Maher's Barbie review is in. I bet you were all waiting for that. The comedian did not mince words. He wrote in a lengthy piece on Twitter, quote, "Okay, Barbie, I was hoping it wouldn't be preachy, man-hating, and a hashtag zombie lie. Alas, it was all three. What is a zombie lie? Something that never was true, but certain people refuse to stop saying it. Or something that used to be true, but no longer is, but certain people pretend it's still true. Barbie is this kind of zombie."
He continues, spoiler alert, Barbie fights the patriarchy right up to the Mattel board, who created her, consisting of 12 white men. The patriarchy, except there's a Mattel board in real life and it's 7 men and 5 women. Okay, not perfect, even Steven, but not the way the board in the movie, which takes place in 2023, is portrayed. And not really any longer deserving of the word patriarchy. Yes, there was one, and remnants of it remain, but this movie is so 2000 and late. Maher was met with both support and ire on Twitter. One user replied, quote, "Barbie hurt Bill Maher's feelings so much that he looked at how many women are on the board of a toy company." However, Maher did earn the backing of tech giant Elon Musk, who replied, quote, "Why do they keep pushing these lies?"
Elon Musk replied to something on Twitter. How rare.
I'm breaking. So, look, I gotta say, I largely am with Bill Maher on this one.
Whoa!
So I did a Barbie review on my podcast a couple weeks ago. People can find that in full over on Bad Faith YouTube. And my audience also rebelled against me over this. I also agree, I think Ben...
Dreyfus?
No.
Collins?
Right, conservative.
Dominic?
Talks very quickly. Come on. Anyway, Ben Shapiro, sorry. Ben Shapiro.
Oh, okay.
Ben Shapiro also made a similar kind of criticism. And Ben Shapiro pointed out what the board dynamics, the ratio of the board gender-wise was. So he probably got it from the Ben Shapiro video. That's how I know what the composition of Barbie is. But here's the overarching point that I think was legitimate. Even though Ben Shapiro was criticizing the feminism in the movie from the perspective of, I don't like feminism, I think that the points that he made specifically about how feminism was cringe in the movie are correct. My argument would be that it's a very simplistic, dumbed down, almost offensive version of feminism. And I would agree with Bill Maher that they tended to make up controversies in the film, like fake patriarchal controversies, which isn't necessary because there's real patriarchy in the real world. So if you make up a fake patriarchy and then you can shoot it down as not really what's reflected in the real world, the impression that you can be left with is that there's no gender hierarchy remaining in America and the women are all complaining about nothing. And I think that's what's really pernicious about the film.
I mean, I've said before, I liked it. It got good reviews in my group of people who went to see it, which included my wife and some male friends and some female friends. We all quite liked it. I do have some issues with the politics of the movie, for sure. Actually, my criticism of the board was that from a storytelling structure point, they were very weird. They just...
Take them out!
They were unnecessary, and they were supposed to be in the real world. Like I thought, a lot of the comedy was coming from, it's a fish out of water tale from a magical realm transported to the real world, having to confront like the harsher, not idealistic reality.
Yes.
But then the board, the company, Mattel specifically, the board, all the interactions in that building were weird, as if they were also taking place in the fantasy world. I don't know why those characters were so weird. It's Will Ferrell.
Will Ferrell was reprising his role as Mugatu.
Right.
From
which obviously in the entire universe of the Blue Steel guy is Zoolander. That whole movie is weird.
Yeah.
But here it's supposed to be the comedy and the drama comes from a difference between the two. It's magical
surrealism to realism, but now in the Barbie in the Mattel building, it's blurring those lines again. So my biggest problem with all of that was that the movie ran long. There were a lot of different plots going on. And as much as I love Will Ferrell, if you go back and cut every scene with Mattel and Will Ferrell in it, nothing will change about the movie.
Yeah.
Like nothing will. So what ends up, you think going into the movie that he's going to be the antagonist.
Yeah.
She gets into the real world. Mattel obviously can't have people know that there's real Barbies in a Barbie land. You got to put her back in the box. But they dropped that conceit almost immediately.
Ken is the antagonist of the film.
And that's where my major problems emerge. Because Ken was obviously the star of the Barbie movie.
Yes.
I should preface this by saying I enjoyed the movie. So don't come at me like you just didn't get the movie. You're sexist.
It was too woke.
I enjoyed it. I had a good time at it. I would recommend that people go and see it. But the reality was, I feel some kind of way as an actual feminist about Ken being so much better, more compelling, and interesting as a character than Barbie. And I think the reason why is because there was a preciousness about Barbie as a character. They wouldn't let her be genuinely flawed outside of the patch of cellulite on her thigh, which we were supposed to find to be horrific. But they wouldn't let her, they kept everything that was troubling her and all the other women in the movie very abstract.
Yeah.
Maher Ferrera, who's our ostensible protagonist in the real world, whose sadness is the root of why Barbie is sad, right? Why she feels like she needs to go to the real world and figure herself out. We're told that she has all these problems. We're told that she gives us this speech at the end of the movie that's supposed to be rousing all the Barbies to action about how much sexism is in the world and how hard it is to be a woman and what a struggle it is. But at no point in the movie are we told what her struggles are. Is her marriage having problems? We don't see her husband except for 5 seconds at the end of the movie. Is she struggling financially? Is she struggling to keep a roof over their head? Is she being abused, discriminated against at work?
Well, the best they suggested is that she was just having a hard time feeling some disconnect from her daughter.
Okay,
but that needed to be fleshed out a little bit more.
But that's not a woman issue.
Yeah.
That's a parent
No, it wasn't
issue.
It wasn't a woman issue.
Teenagers are terrible, and parents struggle to raise them. That's a pretty universal conceit that has nothing to do with feminism. So why is it this rallying cry, like "I am woman, hear me roar"? Why, if that's supposed to be the root of her, of the apotheosis of the self-realization of all the Barbies? It doesn't track for me.
Before they went in we're going to talk about feminism and make it about how women feel put down and paid less and all that. Yeah, it seemed to me more like the conflict was coming from feeling estranged from her daughter, and and they were going to have this bonding experience and her daughter will see that her mother was once a girl who enjoyed Barbie as a girl and also enjoyed the experience of introducing her own daughter to Barbie. But then that does get dropped in the conflict that comes in. You mentioned being paid less.
Was Maher Ferrera paid less than she was due?
Right, I'm just doing feminism platitude.
No, but I'm saying, like, those are real issues that the movie never. By the way, someone on my show, Leslie Lee III, a cultural critic that I really enjoy, he pointed out that the only real woman in the film, they made her like a secretary to the head of Mattel. Like those are choices. Moreover, we're skipping past the main concern that a lot of people had with it, which is that. Spoiler. The plot is that after having seen the real world, Ken.
Oh yes, I have thoughts on this. Barbie Land is an apartheid state.
Yeah. Okay.
Where the Kens have no political representation.
Let's get into it.
It seems like they don't have housing or real jobs.
So let's set it up a little bit. So Ken realizes that the real world has patriarchy, which he sees as a good thing because in Barbie world, the movie tells us. The narrator tells us. This is not me reading into the movie.
It's a matriarchy.
The narrator tells us a matriarchy that the purpose of Ken. Like in a reverse origin biblical myth, Adam and Eve, the purpose of Ken is to serve Barbie and to love Barbie.
Yes.
That being said, Barbie...
And not receive love in return.
Barbie is indifferent to Ken in the movie. Like, yes. Barbie, it seems like the movie is almost afraid to let Barbie have romantic interest because they think that's too stereotypical for girls or something to be driven by romance. But if you have a character whose explicit design is to be a partner to Barbie, it then starts to feel cruel when Barbie doesn't reciprocate.
Not cruel when she doesn't reciprocate, and cruel bordering on like not humanitarian when after the Ken Revolution, like the revolutions of 1848, this is vigorously, stridently put down, and they say, could we have weensy political representation? And the Barbies say no.
No.
They say no. I read an article in like Ms. Magazine or some feminist rag being like, we love Barbie Land because there's no violence, there's no guns. I'm like, yeah, there's no guns. If the Kens had guns, this revolution is sticking. This shows why guns are necessary for political revolution.
Well, no, I wouldn't say that, but I would say that the movie overlooks why it is that in most societies, men are able to enforce patriarchy and be dominant. The idea of sexual threat.
Because genitalia was another problem here because they didn't. That was reference. They don't have it. I'm not sure what even there is the conflict between men and women stripped of their actual.
What I was trying to say is that I think that in real life there's forced. There's the threat of violence, like physical violence and being overwhelmed physically by men who are stronger. And the movie outside of having her butt get slapped when she's in the real world, never really confronts that reality. And I think, again, neuters what women in the real world face and why it is that men are able to be dominant. In the movie, when you take out the threat of violence, right, the Kens basically come back from the real world and say, we're in charge now. And the Barbies just say, okay. And so how do you explain in a movie, we've been told that the Barbies are astrophysicists and novelists and they're brilliant and they're scientists and they go to the moon. But the Kens just show up and say, well, we learned about patriarchy and we think we should do it. And the Barbies go, sure, Ken. And we're supposed to think that that's normal. Well, the movie tries to explain this. Do you remember how the movie tries to explain how the Barbies just rolled over?
By saying they have been anesthetized against it.
Yes.
They need to be confronted by monologues and then they'll realize that they would rather have agency.
Specifically, there's a line that got a lot of blowback from the Native American community that says, just like Native Americans and smallpox, they've never been exposed to patriarchy, so they had no innate defenses against it. That one line is supposed to explain why a whole society where all the Supreme Court is Barbies, all of the president, the leadership, everyone is Barbies. Apparently, I would presume the cops, everybody's Barbies. But if Ken's just float an idea, 20 minutes later, all the Barbies are giving them foot massages and handing them brewski beers on platters with little maid outfits on. And then how to get out of it? How do the Barbies get out of it? Ingenuity, physical strength, nothing. They decide to flirt with the men and then pit them against each other by giving the romantic attentions to yet another man so that they get jealous and then they have a war with each other, during which they go and take back the Supreme
frankly, that part
Court.
felt accurate. I couldn't quite find a fault with the pit the men against each other thing.
It was fun, but on some level, the Barbie movie, while allergic to the idea of having a healthy, equal relationship between anybody, even between Barbies, let the Barbies date each other. I don't care. It's not about men. The movie seemed allergic to the idea of romance at all. But instead of using their mental prowess that we're told throughout the movie exists, at least by virtue of their jobs, the only tool that they have is their feminine wiles to lure the Kens into turning on each other. That's feminism?
I don't know what it is, but it's not equality for Kens, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But I liked it.
I also liked it. I enjoyed it.
It had weird politics.
Especially the beginning of the movie. I thought visually it was beautiful. I think a lot of the sight gags were really funny. The 2001 Space Odyssey. The Ken fights were hilarious. Ryan Gosling was so talented, so funny, and so charismatic. But I think that they should have left the feminism out of the movie, not because feminism is bad or wrong, but because they just handle it so poorly. It made me root against it for 2 hours.
Rooting for a sequel where the Kens finally achieve their political liberation. Maybe a two-state solution, maybe their own
kingdom
place. Yeah. Oh, what's going on in here? Oh, no.
Oh, God. Well, Robbie, our very own Ken, you deserve a little celebration today as you turn the big 3-5. Happy
very
birthday.
Unnecessary. Thank you so much.
Wait, do you see the cake, Robbie?
Oh my God! It says Dungeons and Dragons on it. You guys are too much. You're too much. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate it so much. Thank you to everyone at home and for the staff so much for getting me a birthday cake.
Yeah, they really dug deep.
Who we got? We got everybody on here. We got a fighter. We got a bow. I'm gonna get more in depth with these little characters. We'll have more rising after this. Thank you so much.